ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
Elmore deep, left side three is good! From 30 feet, John Elmore!
The Drive with Paul Swann.
Welcome in. It's Tuesday, May 15th. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. For the next hour, we'll get your phone calls in. 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. You can join me on Twitter, at Paul Swann. That's where I'm checking all the tweets coming in today. And, of course, you can send us text as well, 304-399-8255. If you want to drop us a text note, we will read them on the air. We've got a good show tonight. Coming up, 5:15, we're going to hear from the head coach of the Marshall basketball team, Dan D'Antoni. We got some stuff to get into. Now, I don't know how much he's going to be able to talk about the reports earlier that Mikel Beyers, who is 6'10", 185-pound junior college forward, pledging to be part of the Thundering Herd. I don't know how much he can talk about that, but he can talk about, of course, the fact that they have picked up JUCO transfer, and here's the pronunciation on this, Ante Sustic. He's from Croatia. He's officially joined the Thundering Herd, going to be part of the upcoming season. Here's what Dan said in the release, and we're going to talk to him more about it later. He is a modern-day big. Modern-day big. Not just big, he's 21st century modern. That's how. He's high-tech. Said he can put it on the floor and shoot from distance, provides rim protection. Marshall could use that. His feet are quick enough to guard the outside as well, and he helps by adding size. Now, this kid played at Highland Community College in Freeport, Illinois. He's going to be immediately eligible. He's got 2 years with the Herd, so he might develop into a nice little player for the Thundering Herd. This kid can shoot 62.5% from the field, made 50% of his three-pointers. Now, the number's 7 of 14, but still 50%. And free throw line, he was 15 of 22. That's 68.2%. That can always be improved. But this kid was on a team that won the JUCO Region 4 championship, advanced to the national tournament. Team was 26-8, and got to get his offense up a little bit. Averaged 3.9 points and 2.3 rebounds, and almost 11 minutes of action during the season. So he's got some size, and I'm sure Danny will get him to open up his offensive repertoire a little bit more. But I think we're looking here at a kid that, again, can shoot from distance, and he's looking to protect the rim. You need that. You lose Ideen Penova going to pursue an NBA career, feeling that it's best for him to move on to get to that next level. Marshall needs some size, and guess what? You bring this kid in, and I think you get your size. So Dan's going to join us on the program here in a little bit. We'll talk to him. We'll see where we stand with the Beyers kid, if he can comment on him. If not, we will wait till the official release from the Thundering Herd on that. Also, we've got a lot to get into today as far as what's happening across the Thundering Herd landscape. Marshall baseball not happening, and they were going to play earlier today, about 3 o'clock. Tried to move that game up because they were trying to avoid the weather. Some nasty weather was coming their way. And there was a little confusion. First we got the note, okay, this game's been moved to 3. All right, that's fine. No show tomorrow. We're fine. We're good. And then we get the note, okay, it's been canceled. And then we had to walk that back a little bit because I think West Virginia was holding out a little bit, trying to wait till the last minute to decide to cancel this game because they thought they could get it in, but they wanted to wait and see what today looked like. So the decision this morning made, no Marshall-West Virginia game. So Thundering Herd's going to go to Beckley now, wrap it up, their final series before the season's over. No chance of getting into the Conference USA tournament, which is a disappointment for Marshall baseball. Such a promising season, and I know that's been used a lot, a promising season. Injuries did not help this baseball team. So no Mountaineer matchup with the Thundering Herd. That game was pretty good the last time they played in Charleston. I was kind of hoping for something similar in that contest. West Virginia, Marshall, I mean, they're very competitive against each other in baseball and a few of the other sports, so that would have been really fun to see. So no baseball today. Now, we'll turn our attention to golf, and right now, Thundering Herd have got a dandy and Alex Weiss. He's in a tie for 60th place at the NCAA Raleigh Regional. He's got a score of 6 over 148 after 2 rounds. Here's what Grobe said today. Matt Grobe, head coach, the golf team. Played well today. Still isn't making as many birdie putts as we're used to seeing, but he is rolling the ball well. Added that he's looking forward to watching him compete in the final round tomorrow and trying to move up the leaderboard. I mean, the kid did see a 4-stroke improvement from the previous day. Shot 1 over 72 on Tuesday afternoon. And guess what? Got an eagle on the 15th hole. The eagle on number 15 was set up after he hit a perfect drive off the tee. From there, he hit a 2-iron across a lake and made a putt from 10 feet out. I would love to see this kid have a little bit more success team-wise with the Thundering Herd, but on the individual standpoint, he's been doing pretty good. That's got to make you feel good about Marshall Golf and the job that, of course, Coach Grove's been doing. This has got to help as well. You get a little notoriety out of your golf team. You can point to this and say, hey, we're getting kids here. We're moving up. You can be a part of the program. Come on, be part. So we'll try to get Groby on this weekend to see where we're at with this. And that's where we're at with Marshall Sports. Kind of a light day on the Thundering Herd landscape. We got one official confirmation of a player coming in, and we've got one verbal with a wait and see on the official release from the Thundering Herd. I'm a little bit more on the let's wait till I get the official word before I really dive into it, just because a verbal's a verbal. Signed paper is completely different. But we'll talk to Marshall head basketball coach Dan D'Antoni. He's going to join us on the other side of the break. We'll get his thoughts on his new addition. Maybe squeeze a little NBA in there with him as well. And, of course, later on we'll get your phone calls in. This is The Drive. I'm your host, Paul Swann. It's ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Welcome back to the Tuesday edition of The Drive. I'm your host, Paul Swann, here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. And it's always fun to get a chance to talk to the head coach of the Marshall basketball team, since basketball season seems to have been extended from, all 12 months. Coach is with us on the program now. It's kind of funny, Coach. We're talking about Marshall basketball longer and further into the months now. You must be doing something right.
Well, some players are doing a lot of things right. We had a nice run this year. Players are exciting to watch. It's kind of new for our area, so it's exciting. We're having fun doing it.
Well, you seem to have picked up another dandy here. You picked up Ante Sustic. You got yourself another big Croatian. You described him as a modern big. What are you saying about him? What are you trying to relay to people about what he is?
Well, we play a lot like as good as we can be. I wouldn't certainly compare us to us, but we play positionless basketball, and he's able to play inside, outside. He can guard. He can keep, a lot of smaller guys in front of him, yet he's long enough to handle the big guys inside. So, we're trying to get 5 Kevin Durants. If you can find them, I'll go recruit them.
So, what attracted you to him? Where did you find him in your recruiting search? You seem to find a lot of these big ones.
Well, he was at junior college, and his coach had left. He did okay. He had some pretty good numbers, pretty good production numbers under the other coach. And then when the coach left, they brought in more of a standard back-to-your-back power forward and center. And he kind of went to the bench. We have connection with a couple of guys. I have a Croatian on my staff. He had seen him and felt like his skill set fit our skill sets, and that's the biggest thing, is trying to find players that have the skill sets that you require. If you don't, and you try to plug in kids or teach kids that don't have those skill sets, then usually it's difficult, and they start losing their confidence, and then a lot of times good players become bad players. And, I found that once players feel comfortable and they're confident, they're asked to do things that they're capable of doing, then confidence comes back, and the production numbers come up, and you have a good team.
Joining us on the program, Marshall basketball coach Dan D'Antoni. The official word came today that Ante Sustic has joined the Thundering Herd. Do you see him as someone's going to be a project for a little while for you, or is he going to have an immediate impact, you hope?
Well, he's a JUCO, so, he only has 2 years. We have, we didn't lose anybody, and then all of a sudden a dean left and signed with Bill Duffy's organization. And so we all of a sudden had a need, and so we had to go. I wanted to get a little bit mature player, but now we have a kid that's going to come in his first year. He worked with us last year. He was not eligible last year, but he becomes eligible this year. He's 6'10.5" and 350 pounds at best, maybe more. And but he's fast. He runs like Shaq. When Shaq was young, and he's really an agile player who can keep littles in front and really play like we like to play. And so when I was looking at Ante, I knew that he was going to be at best a backup for Bennett, but at the same time, if it works out and his skill sets are real good at that 4, play alongside him so that you have 2 kids, 6'10", long, that can protect the basket defensively, and then do our pick and rolls, and then get to the rim and force defenses to rotate. Then that, of course, when that happens, that gives you your outside shots. So, we feel good that he can do that. We just now, and you probably haven't heard yet, but we also signed another kid that's 6'10", and he hasn't signed. Well, he has signed it. I think he signed a letter. But anyway, he 6'10", and can be a 1 through 5. He is a Kevin Durant type of player. So we think, by getting in the tournament and people getting the name out there, and Mike, you got Mike out there, and most people, or a lot of people, know he came from the same school, basketball school, that we seem to be getting some good players, and I think we'll have a good ball club.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. The other player, Mikel Beyers, who we heard that he gave the verbal, so he brings a lot more size to you as well at 6'10". You're going to get him for, I believe, 3 seasons. Played 1 season at Mesa Community College. What can you tell us about him other than he's big?
Well, he can play 1 through 5, and that's sometimes you look at numbers. And you say, well, he didn't have the great numbers or anything like that. But I watched the tape, and they kind of were basically using him as a back to the basket guy. And he's too slight. He's slender. He can't play that way, and you're taking away a lot part of his game. But then I started looking at his stats. Played 9 minutes a game, but he got 7.8 points a game, and he got 3 rebounds, and he was shooting 48% from threes, 52 overall. So when you start looking at his stats and you start going, wait a minute, now he's almost scoring a point a minute when he's on the floor and shoots over or right at 50% from threes. I would think it might not be him. They got to find him a little bit better, because the boy is capable of a lot more than his stats are showing. So we think we got a real good one, a sleeper. He was 5'10" as a freshman, 6'6" when he graduated, from high school, 6'9" now, and he looks like he's got another 2 inches in him. So we expecting a lot. He can put it on the floor. He can, he can bring it up the floor. He can run your pick and roll, or he can, as a picker, or he can run the pick and roll as a passer. So, and he can spot up. So, he's got the skill sets. We just have to build his body a little bit and then turn him loose.
How important was it to just get that size? The talent's there, it seems, but just to add that size, maybe that was a minor criticism from some in the media. I'm not going to name names, Coach, but that you need a little bit more size.
I'm used to it. It's okay. Well, listen, it's okay. They have their job. We were thin. They were right. We were thin as far as size goes. And, everybody says you want to play small ball. I want to play as big a ball as I can that can do all the things that we want him to do. And so, we added a bunch of size. Our guards are really strong coming back with John Elmore and C.J. Burks, 2 20-point scores. And we had a freshman that was the other guard, and he defends and gets up there and is kind of a motor. So, that last year's team had four juniors and 3 freshmen. Then we got George and Jansen Williams coming back, who really came on during the year, 6'8", 6'6" player, and a little slight build, but you know what? If you're quick, a lot of times slight build is just being aggressive, and if you're mentally aggressive, KD is kind of thin too, or really was thin when he first came in, but he's pretty effective. So.
Joining us on the program, Marshall basketball coach Dan D'Antoni. So you pretty much you've got everybody and everything you want in place now, or are you still trying to maybe put another piece together here to finish this up?
No, we're done as far as this year, as far as recruiting. As far as the program goes, I think we just got to get consistency. I like what I've seen so far. Yesterday in the practice, we had a workout, and Ira got loose and dunked the ball, moved the goal 4 feet back. I had my managers go out there and push it back, and they couldn't push it back, so Ira went over himself and pushed it back himself. So, we think we're a fun team, and I think we got the program the right way. Got a great staff. Our staff solidified the way we teach, and a lot of people say we play, y'all just play pickup basketball. I said, well, we teach pickup basketball the right way. And so there is a learning process. I used the term all the time when I was at Sauk City High School in the late 70s, early 80s. And a lot of people picked up on the term of organized chaos. And I go, that's kind of how we played. We used to name our basketball program Organized Chaos. And that is that, what people might see as chaotic is not. If you came and watched us practice, you would see there's a rhyme and reason to everything we do, and we practice what we do. And so, we're trying to create that scenario out on the floor. We think we got the coaching staff now we teach a little different, or practice a little different than what I did even way back in the 80s. But a little different practice, a little different skill sets, and how we teach it. And so you have to have your staff kind of learn. They haven't played it before, so we feel like now that I know that when we do practice, I have to do a lot less. I can turn it over, and we think we got a chance to, help bring to a national type of basketball school.
Marshall basketball coach Dan D'Antoni joining us on the program, and you got your team set, it feels like now. I know you are the type of guy who is always looking to improve not just the team, but facilities, everything you have, try to be as first class as possible. We haven't had a chance to speak since the announcement came out that you're getting a new scoreboard, first time in a long time, and it's going to be right there hanging like most basketball arenas in the center. And I know you got to be excited for that to spruce up the Henderson Center a little bit.
Well, if we're going to, I always tell somebody, when we were in the NIT, the first team that we beat in the NIT was Villanova. And you can see where they've gone and the facilities they have. You have to keep up. If you don't, you can't expect your program to be consistent and be a part of a national program, a mid-major program, Wichita State, Gonzaga, those type of schools. And your facility is a show of investment or care that your school really cares about this basketball program, and they show it through facilities and how the operation is run. So we think we've done some good upgrades in the first 4 years. The plant itself, we've cleaned it up a lot. Now you're getting a clock. We're getting new lockers come into the locker room and sprucing up our locker room, and hopefully won't stop there. We're going to have a practice facility, and you have to have maybe a training table. It just has to be run in a first-class way. When players feel like, to me, and coaches, anybody's salaries, the whole thing has to be competitive and up at the upper half of Conference USA instead of the bottom half like it has been. So hopefully if we can push that all, we can be a good reference point for Marshall University, and people get to see us and they're impressed with what they see. They'll attend Marshall and understand that it's a great school and a good chance for a good education and a fun environment to come and watch basketball.
Marshall basketball coach Dan D'Antoni, our guest. This is The Drive. I'm your host, Paul Swann, here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Before we let you go, Coach, how many pointers did you give your brother to kind of help him out in his next game?
Yeah, right. I know this. He called me at 8 o'clock this morning, and I was busy, tied up, didn't get to it. Then he called me again at 8:45. I knew that I better take the phone call, so I dropped what I was doing, just listened to him. They think, they weren't that far away. That there's some things that he can adjust and give him a better chance. Golden State is a once in a long time or 5-decade type of team. They're very, very good, and when you get into championships, they know what it's about, and they got the skill set to get it done. They're going to have to tweak probably their offense a little bit and try to get the ball moving just a little bit, or to make a little bit quicker decisions as to starting their offense. And the toughest part is defensively trying to get into them. And KD shot like 60%, and a lot of them were tough shots, so they didn't get any quick outs on the transition, which usually gets Gordon and Rizzo and players like that going, and they didn't get any. So you're playing a tough team, and you went down one, but it's one ball game. Again, I hope that they can make a few adjustments, come back, win this next one, then go steal one there, and then they're right back on track. You
keep an eye on the Eastern Conference as well, as much as you are the Western?
Yeah, I like Boston. I like Gregory Bragg coaches, and he's got a lot of guys with no names and not big names. They're good names, but not the big names. And they're a tough little team, and I like the way they move and move the basketball and share it. There's a lot of people can have big games that way. You just won't have one guy that. If one guy goes down, next guy steps up in their program. That's kind of the way we like to play with our offense. I like to think that one player goes down, next guy stands up. So it's a kind of a mindset you bring, but it's also how the ball moves, and it gives everybody a shared opportunity to play well.
You think maybe this is the year in the Eastern Conference where team ball wins over LeBron James?
I think it looks like it's got a good chance. I've never count LeBron out because that's one of the greatest. But it looks like they got so many weapons that spreads everybody out, and everybody. LeBron can't rest on defense. He's got to guard the whole time there. Then he's got to carry him on offense. Might be a little bit too big a load for him. I don't know, but he's awfully good. I don't know if I go out there and put a bet down against him for sure, but it should be a great series again. And one thing I learned in the NBA experience is that you don't start celebrating or getting too disappointed until there's about 2 minutes in the game left in the game, because there's a big ebb and flow in game. It can be in games, and the same thing with wins and losses in series. There's a big ebbs and flows. Getting beat 24 points in one game, you can come back and win by 10 the next. And seen it too many times, you know. In college, sometimes that doesn't happen. When a team's 20-some points better than you, it probably stays that way. But not in the NBA. NBA, you can have vast swings in scores and outcomes.
Dan D'Antoni, our guest, Marshall's basketball coach. Congratulations on everything so far, and good luck as you get this team ready for a basketball season that we're already wanting to start tomorrow.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It's a lot of fun. The kids gave me a great ride. Fans were great this year. We built our fan base. They're coming back. They're loud. They're interested. We had 50 or 60 people at practice just watching us practice in May for next year. So we hope that it's good for Huntington, good for Marshall, good for the state of West Virginia, and we're going to give them our best shot. So all I can say to everybody, let's go Herd.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time today.
All right, man. Take care. Thank you.
That's Dan D'Antoni, head coach of the Marshall Thundering Herd. We'll take the phone calls now, 304-399-8255. You can join us toll-free, 877-420-8255. We've got more on the way. This is The Drive on ESPN, FM, and AM 930.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back. It's Tuesday. It's May 15th. You're listening to The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. And usually I don't get to see him on a regular basis because he's here bright and early in the morning. But Bill Cornwell's in studio with us now. You missed a good interview. Dan D'Antoni.
I was listening to it in the car, and it was good to hear it. I know he had a lot to say about his newest signee. And, Paul, I watched a little of the tape on him, and folks go to YouTube and look it up because kid is mobile, if nothing else. I love to watch the guy. He can do the pick and roll, which, of course, is a big part of Marshall's offense. He's good with ball fakes. He can go out and shoot the three. Alley-oops, he's big with that. Of course, that's a big part of Marshall's offense. I would imagine he will be the beneficiary of a lot of John Elmore alley-oops come this basketball season.
I don't know if he's overcompensating, but he loses some size on ID Penova, so he goes out and gets
two.
Gets two.
Now,
he got a spare now.
Now Beyers is different than the kid that they got the commitment from on Friday. I think Sustic, I believe, was his name, Ante Sustic. He's more of a big body, and I don't know if he has the mobility that Mikel Beyers does, but again, it's two 6'10" big bodies, and that is not bad.
Excellent pronunciation on that. Ante Sustic.
And, of course, let's not discount Aran Bennett, and let's hope that Aran Bennett is healthy and ready to go this fall. So you would have 3 6'10" guys around. And, of course, Jansen Williams, who is getting stronger in the weight room, working on his body. There's a 6'9" guy. So this is going to be a Marshall team that all of a sudden is going to have a little bit of size out there. Not going to be vertically challenged, as has been the case at times.
Bill Cornwell's in studio. This is The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Have you ever seen a time where we're this excited about Marshall basketball in May?
Well,
May.
There's excitement about Marshall football and basketball for the simple fact that there is a lot of anticipation of good things. Now, unfortunately, sometimes you get disappointed with that anticipation, but let's put it this way. The pieces are there in both sports to have just blockbuster years. The talent is there in basketball. We know that. And just, making sure that John Elmore and C.J. Burks for sure are coming back. But obviously there's just so much excitement with the football program coming off the New Mexico Bowl win, coming off the late outstanding recruiting class that Coach Doc Holliday and staff put together, and the anticipation about the quarterback from Wagner, who is so highly touted, and seeing what he does this fall, and loaded backfield, loaded wide receiver position, offensive line that's really experienced. I mean, lots of depth there.
New coaching situation.
New offensive coordinator. new defensive coordinator, although they're going to run a lot of the same stuff that they did with Chuck Heater. On the defensive side, lots of athletic players who are playmakers, a little bit of experience. Ryan B., of course, back for his senior season, and I think he's going to have a big year. Probably the biggest hole or biggest question is going to be the kicking game. You wonder who's going to get that job. But a lot of positives.
Good time for Herd fans right now. Basketball, football. Now just got to get a few other things cleaned up with the Olympic sports, and I think you're going to be all right.
And I saw that our good friend Katie Pate has left the fold.
Yeah, Georgia State. I saw that yesterday.
Katie Pate, assistant coach with the Marshall women's basketball team, and she was a good friend of the show, Paul. And
she was fun. She was high energy.
Fun. And she has taken an assistant's job down in Atlanta at Georgia State, and I think that's a little closer to home for her.
Makes perfect sense.
But we're going to miss her.
I'm sure she's going to work her way back up to head coaching job.
Yeah, she did what was it, the Lenore Ryan, where she was the coach before.
Yeah.
She has some head coaching experience.
Marshall's a tough job right now for the girls, just because expectations weren't where you thought they would be. You've got a new coach come in, and he's trying to get off to a good start, and you can't say anything negative about Tony Kemper, but this wasn't the year that he was expecting. He wasn't even close.
They had injury problems. They lost a couple of players at key positions that they could have really couldn't afford to lose, and the transition year just didn't go smoothly between himself and his predecessor, Coach Matt Daniel, and it was a tough one for the Herd. But you kind of hope for next year that things improve, because you got some good senior talent. Of course, Shayna Gore will be back, an all-conference player, and be her senior season, and I know she wants to go out with a big year.
She's your main weapon. She's your only weapon. And then you lose Taliqua Hamilton. She's finally done after 57 years.
I'm going to say after 5 decades.
57 years. I've never seen someone age so gracefully and still be able to play basketball after 57 years.
She had a long it's kind of a
it was 57 years.
A long college career.
I mean, she outlasted several athletic directors and coaches. She was there a long time.
She almost was under 3 coaches. You're right.
Yeah, just about. So she definitely had a long run at Marshall. You're going to miss her because you're not going to have that leadership and that presence. So it's going to be imperative that Shayna Gore becomes that leader and that presence. She's got to be that firm presence that will get this team through what comes next. She has to be, because she's the weapon right now. So she's got to add that to her repertoire of being able to go out there and control, direct, be just inspirational. Everything that comes with being a senior. She's got to be able to do that and be a leader. It is 5:45. This is The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. We're going to take our final break. We'll give you a chance to get your phone calls in. 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. More on the way here. I'm your host, Paul Swann. I've got Bill Cornwell in studio with me as well here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
To The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the May 15th edition. It's The Drive on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. A rare reunion here. Paul Swann and Bill Cornwell with you. And, of course, anytime Bill's in studio, there has to be mention of the University of Kentucky Wildcats, because you're already trying to figure out how you can work it out to go see Utah come into Rupp Arena.
Actually, I'm just excited that they scheduled, UK and Utah running Utes have scheduled a basketball non-conference game at Rupp for this upcoming season, and that is a good scheduling move for both schools. An SEC Pac-12 matchup, no problem with that anytime. And Utah's, last 3 or 4 years they made the NCAA tournament. Now last year they were an NIT team, but they are a solid Pac-12 program. Of course, Coach Larry Kostoviak is the coach, and that'll be a good test for the Cats. And I would rather see him play the Utahs of this world than playing some of the lesser schools that sometimes they do schedule non-conference in Rupp Arena. They played Harvard last year was one. I know that they had a couple of more, and of course they played Monmouth up in Madison Square Garden. I play these teams like Utah, people like that.
It's a good game for Monmouth. It's a good game for Harvard.
Although we do know that Kentucky already has built-in tough opponents because you have that Champions Classic every year, and I think they play Duke this year. So
that'd be fun. That's going to be in Rupp, though, right?
No, that one's on a neutral court.
Is that on a neutral court?
And I think that they have. I don't know if they're playing UCLA this year. They've been playing last few years, but there are some kind of built-in tough games. And of course, you got your Louisville game that as you always do, and that'll be interesting. Mack is the new Louisville Cardinal coach, and his first experience playing UK.
That would be a loss for Louisville.
Well, should be. Should be.
Well, I don't think Louisville's going to bounce back right away. They sort of faded.
They did.
They were okay. They're a good program, but they're not going to be elite level for a while.
And they're also going to have to do some major building because they've lost some of the talent that they had this year, even in a struggling year with all the controversy that was going on in Louisville. And they lost those players. So Chris Mack is having to really rebuild from the bottom up with his recruiting and just I guess you would say, the nuts and bolts of the program.
You have a coach who's accused of everything he's accused of, and you lose him, you lose your athletic director, and then
NCAA problems. You vacate a championship, take down the banner.
Does that mean Pitino's got to vacate his tattoo as well?
I want to see that
removed.
I want that televised.
I'm serious. Does he have to have that lasered off? Does the NCAA?
That would be tough.
Does the NCAA send a notice to him that you have to laser off that tattoo?
We're going to send the NCAA Gestapo to come and make sure that is lasered
Does
off.
Louisville make the phone call and say, "We're sorry, Rick, you're going to have to remove that tattoo. We took the banners down, and now you got to take the tattoo down"?
That would be harsh.
I would do it. That'd be cold.
That would be harsh.
If I'm the NCAA, I'm going to add injury to insult. I'm just going to call him. Yeah, they're going to have to remove that tattoo. Sorry, you're going to have to laser that thing off.
It's going to be an interesting year all around for the Louisville athletic department because, of course, you got Lamar Jackson gone for the football program. So, your star attraction for a couple, 3 years is gone from the football program. Where do you go from here? Already in the tough ACC, having to compete with the people like Florida State and compete with Clemson, Georgia Tech, people like that, Virginia Tech.
They were right there. They were on the plateau. They were not on top of the world, but they were pretty high
knocking
up.
on the door. They were knocking on the door, and it might be a little tough this year. And then, of course, probably the most stable program there at that school right now is the women's basketball program, which was a Final Four team this past year and has been knocking on that door the last few years. And of course they're a good baseball program, which went to the College World Series last year.
Yeah, you take your victories where you can.
You do.
That's why you're celebrating Marshall basketball right now. And yeah, it's one win in the NCAA tournament, but it's the first ever win in the NCAA tournament. And hopefully the Thundering Herd can repeat that, get back to the NCAA tournament. That would be what would be fantastic. Marshall can make it a back-to-back appearance, maybe get another win. That would really put this program in good footing.
By the way, I didn't hear the first part of your interview with Coach D'Antoni, but did you by any chance mention the three guys that were sitting in the front row last night at the game with the Marshall gear on?
No, I didn't.
There was a guy.
I saw that.
Right, yeah. Now, that number 10 jersey, I believe, was Mike's jersey. Now, I mean, that was his number at Marshall. So,
well, you've got some smart fans out there.
Yeah, they had a Mike D'Antoni, but it's a new style Marshall jersey the guy had. And then two guys sitting with him had the Dan D'Antoni white shirt with the Marshall logo. And, in fact, one of them had the Dan D'Antoni jacket going with the white shirt.
If you're going to do it right.
I mean, it was a tribute to the D'Antoni family in Marshall on the front row in the Jack Nicholson seats there at the Toyota Center in Houston.
All I know is Dan has already had conversations with Mike. Mike
I did hear him say
Mike
that. I heard about the phone calls.
Yeah, Mike made the phone call. So I don't know. Maybe it was like, who were those guys? Where'd they get your shirts from? I don't know what that conversation could be.
Tell you what, it's awful nice to have a brother that you can call and use as a sounding board, if nothing else. And I'm sure that's what Mike was doing today, talking to Danny, and because knowing Danny, he probably had a few tidbits to give him.
I wanted to ask him about gambling, but I didn't want to go there just yet with him, since gambling is now going to be legal in the state of West Virginia. I'm curious how that's going to be handled. I'm sure from a coaching standpoint, Dan knows all about that.
Well,
being an NBA coach, he knows. So
Marshall and West Virginia both, they have some concerns. They say a lot of their issues are going to be compliance and making sure that people involved with the athletic department keep a nose clean when it comes to gaming and gambling.
I think that it's going to continue to be you cannot. I know employees at Marshall couldn't even participate in bracket contests.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they could fill a bracket out, but if there was even a hint of, okay, you're doing this, you're gaming, you're gambling, you're betting, no, you can't do this. So I don't think it changes. I'm curious what the cost is going to be, what the incurred cost is supposed to be from listening to Mike Hamrick and the representation that went up to that meeting last week before the Supreme Court.
Shane Lyons from West Virginia.
I will say this. I think Mike Hamrick's qualified to be an authority on this issue just because of his past experience and his previous positions. Yeah. I mean, you work in Las Vegas, you know what's up. But I'm curious what the cost is. How much more do you perceive you need to make this work? And how much kickback is Marshall and West Virginia going to get if the reports are true that they're going to get a percentage of whatever integrity fee comes about?
Tell you what, it will make a big difference probably in the bottom line at Marshall. West Virginia, they have a pretty good situation built in as far as revenue is concerned, but at a place like Marshall, it can't hurt.
I'll tell you another way to make revenue better. I didn't have time to get into this one, but the Baltimore Ravens are going to bring fans back by reducing concession prices.
There you go.
Concession prices are going to be lowered at Baltimore Ravens games. How many fans would come back to a game if the ticket price was fair and they don't spend an arm and a leg for concessions?
Now those $15 hamburgers or $9 hot dogs.
I spent $5 for a beverage at the movie theater.
Yes.
That's it. That's my limit.
I could get with you on that one.
That's my limit, man. And at least I get a refill. I'll say this: prices at Bengals games aren't terrible. Just personal experience.
Yeah.
And you get that nice little collector's cup, and you get the sticker that gets your refill.
There are worse.
There are worse. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to buy a slice of pizza for what they're asking, but it's not terrible. For our producer, Gabriel Sellerts, for Bill Cornwell, dropping by, visiting. I'm Paul Swann. This has been The Drive. We'll see you tomorrow here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Huntington Sports Station.